Next up, we're going to be taking a look at how we can leverage some of the actions that occur within Liferay and execute some of the things that we may want to do along the way. In the more formal, we're going to be taking a look at how we're able to catch portal lifecycle events. So a couple different use cases of the various portal lifecycle events or actions that occur within Liferay. So as Liferay is starting up or shutting down, when Liferay, the servlet, receives a service call, whenever we log in or log out, or if a page is being updated. All of those are different examples of actions that could happen within Liferay, and we can actually tap into those different actions. So whenever a user logs in, for example, we can execute some code before or after the login process is finished. Similarly, you can do the same thing as the user is logging out, as Liferay is starting up, as Liferay is shutting down, and so on. We're going to be taking a look at all of the different events that we're able to work with. In order to, access or leverage those different events, we're going to first create a component, just as we always do. So we're going to create a component that implements the lifecycle action interface. Within the component annotation, we're going to be setting within the property element which specific event or portal lifecycle action we want to leverage or work into. And then if there are multiple, we can set our service ranking depending on when we want this one to be executed. So an example here, we'll start off, we'll see that our class implements the lifecycle action just as we need it to. In the component annotation, in the property attribute, we see key equals global startup events. So this key equals that value is the specific event that we want to tap into. So global startup events is just kind of a fancy way of saying when our whole Liferay instance starts up. Once it's starting up or as it's starting up, we want our chunk of code down here at the process lifecycle event to be ran. So in this situation, or in this example, very simple, we're just sending off an email saying that our Liferay instance has been started or rebooted. Now, this table here, as well as the next one, is going to show the specific property and what exactly it does. So the global startup and shutdown, this happens one time for the whole portal. So the way I visualize this is when Tomcat starts, this is when it's going to start up. The application startup is going to be ran for each portal instance that started up or shut down. So if we have multiple Liferay instances, every time each one starts up, this specific event is going to be triggered. And the same for shutdown. Over here, right, we have various servlet sessions, servlet actions that can occur. So whenever a specific request is going to be processed, right, we can tap into that, so either before or after. And finally, one of the cool ones, probably the coolest in my opinion, this is the login events. So whenever a user logs in or logs out, before the process is done or after the process is done, we can do something. And whenever the page is updated or deleted, right, so a portal page or site page, we can tap into that event as well. So in the chain, this is kind of the sort of triage that something could occur in. So we can have a specific servlet service come in. Before it's executed, we do something. When the servlet session is created, we can do something. After the servlet service is finished, we can do something. Before someone logs in, or before the login finish is done, do something. After the login process is finished, we can do something. Okay, So when we're dealing with the Lifecycle Event interface, we get a couple of different things along the way. So the big one here is we have access to the HTTP servlet request, response, and the HTTP session. Along the way, we also have the ability to get the ID numbers for our Liferay instance. So again, if we have multiple, we can work specifically on one. So how do we do all of this? We saw the code. Let's talk through it one more time. So we start off by creating a component that implements the lifecycle action interface. We then, within the component annotation, we're going to be specifying a property, key equals, followed by the specific Liferay event that we want to leverage. From there, we can set a service ranking if there are multiple components tapping into or listening for that specific event. Finally, we implement the process lifecycle event method to execute or perform the action that we want to perform. So, module lifecycle events. This one's kind of cool as well. So what we can do is we can also wait for specific things to occur at the module level or the module lifecycle level. So some of the things we can do when the database is initialized, portal is initialized, when Spring is initialized, we can do something. So one of the examples that we have here, right, we have a implementation class that implements an API called training API. Component annotation as is, that's all done. Down here towards the bottom, we are going to work with this portal initialized service object based off of the module service lifecycle interface. Using a property with the @reference annotation, we're specifically going to be working with the portal once it's initialized. So let's go ahead and we'll work through an example of after the user logs in, what we're going to be doing is sending an email just saying that you've been logged in. So the steps to this, we're going to create a Liferay module project using the service template. Going to create the component that implements the lifecycle action. We're then going to add a specific property, key equals login events post, signifying which specific action we're going to listen for. We're going to implement the process lifecycle event method, deploy, and then test it out. So let's go ahead and work through this exercise of a post login action.